Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
So we're back with Pete Blaber on Ukraine SitRep. You know, Pete, it's I always think that maybe that we won't have enough for another series, but just a few days and there's so much coming out on Ukraine. It's absolutely astounding what's happening out there. What say you?
Yeah, never ends. I spend the same amount of time I do now as I did in 22, 23, 24, because you just can't believe it. That's part of it. That
Yeah, that's
keeps
true.
guys like us. You just cannot believe it. We will show some more casualty figures today.
Yeah.
And of course, the behavior of the European leaders just continues to amaze.
Sure.
And as a historian, you kind of feel like you're watching, World War One, fall into place. All the events, World War II, you name it, Gulf of Tonkin. It's just you see this and you cannot believe it's still going on. So that's I think, part of what keeps us glued to it. But they're not making progress there. You can tell what their intentions are.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute. I wanted to bring something up that came up this week, and that McChrystal is out in the press, and I wanted to highlight this. We wrote this back several years ago, 2020 actually, 5 years ago, about Defeat Disinfo, which was McChrystal's NGO, where he essentially is using technology developed on social media and influence technology against the American public. And I'll just read this. The story of defeatdisinfo.org and Stanley McChrystal's involvement has been widely reported in the press, but most Americans still do not realize what is going on right in front of them as we head into November. This was before the election. The Washington Post first reported on the development in May, highlighting the fact that McChrystal, a former U.S. Army theater commander in Afghanistan, was using psychological and information tools developed initially by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, and used extensively against our enemies, and now is using against the American people, specifically Trump supporters. You know, we experienced that. In ours was just essentially cutting us off. There was a part 2 on this that came out a little bit later, a few days later, what Stanley McChrystal isn't saying about his DARPA-funded military software. So you can go into both these articles on cdm.press. This one's pretty lengthy and goes into a lot of the definitions of what they were doing with the receipts, as you say, goes into the technology, working with SCL, which is Strategic Communications Labs, with MI6, which was, that was all worked into the Facebook stuff back with Steve Bannon and all this. There's a lot of tentacles to this, but the point I want to get across is that this stuff was being used against the American people and likely still is. And if that's not, I don't want to use the word treason, but maybe it is. I mean, what do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I think that was hammer and scorecard, what you described. And, that was certainly the word on the street. He, his business, his consulting business, one of the biggest parts of it that draws the most revenue is he creates command and control centers for complex enterprises, multidisciplinary monitoring. So, it doesn't take, it doesn't take a lot of extrapolation to make the connection between him selling command and control talk jocks and what happened in 2020. And what a lot of people don't know about him, I'll just say it, is he's probably the most politically extreme military officer I've ever come across. And you know, we were basically overlapped most of our career. And like us, you can ask almost any guy prior to 2008 on about politics in the military, and they'll tell you there were none. Everyone just said we're all green. You know, the culture was you never spoke about politics. You never brought up, you know, an opinion. You certainly never talked badly about the commander in chief. And my first exposure to him was in 2000. The election hadn't happened yet between Gore and Bush, and he was having some kind of get together at his DC place, and a bunch of, you know, guys who used to work for him were there. I was there. I was standing with 5 guys by the bookcase. You know, we were bored. One of the guys pulled Stephanopoulos' book off the shelf. Can't remember the name of it. And at the time, he was getting a lot of you know, press, and rightfully so. I think he was one of the first guys to use social media for Clinton's campaigns, and he did a great job with it. And so that was the discussion with this Stephanopoulos book, and all of a sudden this arm reaches in, rips it out of the guy who was talking's hands, and it was McChrystal. And he said, you know, just kind of to all of us in general, your ignorance shows through. Why don't you hold your criticism until you've actually read a book? And he put it back in and stormed off. And and so I was like, wow, everyone was.
What was he reacting to? Like just the fact
he was a hardcore Clinton supporter. He was obviously all ramped up about the election with Bush or Bush election, which, you know, you're in the military. Even that election, I was like, you know, whatever happens, the people's will. But he was all ramped up. And then a senior guy came over who had known him since West Point and said, yeah, he's always been that way. He's against, he's for gun control. He wants all hunting and assault weapons taken off the street. So this is the same guy who, you know, the mainstream media tried to make out as this ultimate warrior, everything else. But that's him, and he's the most politically extreme general I ever saw. The beginning of political extremism in the military. You know, in the 2020, after I told you he was selling command and control, and you just read that about Hammer and Scorecard. After the election, Joe Biden put out this awkward list of, you know, president-elect transition team, and at the very first name up there was Stanley McChrystal, his main advisor for foreign policy and military operations. So since then, he's tried to, every time he comes out, he tries to come out like, I'm a military officer and I just can't take it anymore, and I've got to say some things. And so he's come out against Trump repeatedly from 2016 on. And if you just remember, he just endorsed Kamala Harris and
this was from a couple of days ago where he was slamming Trump and removing transgender troops. Yeah.
So, I mean, and he was a Ranger commander. He would never have taken a trans troop. I can tell you that, anyone else who worked for him. So it's just hypocrisy. He's a political pundit. That's all he is. He comes out, like I said, he endorsed Kamala Harris for character, and then tried to explain the character with zero examples, because there are no examples of Kamala Harris. There aren't. Character, I define it in my second book. Character is a byproduct of the decisions and choices you make in life. So the only way to assess someone's character is by the choices they've made and the decisions that they've, you know, championed, passed, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And of course, with Kamala, there's none. So that's the way he is. He's still, a hardcore Democrat, leftist, globalist. And what you see is what you get out of him. It's not a well thought out military guy who cares for the greater good of the military and the protection of the people. This is a political extremist. And, no, it's just no one calls him out on it.
Well, we are anyway.
Yeah.
That's enough about him. And we're going to call out these generals from time to time that we see, former generals that we see, not living up to their oath, we should say. All right, let's jump to Ukraine. I've got some slides here. I'm just going to pull them up and let you give an update of where we are on the whole conflict.
Yeah. So just to start off, we've done an episode called "Desperate Men Make Desperate Moves." It's not just a one-time thing. It's a pattern of human nature that you're watching play out in Europe and the globalists in general, but the European leaders specifically. They're desperate. They see these talks keep going, words on the street. They're talking economic, binding economic agreements between Russia and the U.S. The Europeans, can't hide their negative feelings toward Trump anymore. You've seen some of them come out, Merz and Macron, we showed last week. But they're desperate. They just realize not only do they have no say in what's happening, but they can't just accept that they've been wrong the whole time, that the basis upon which their ideas stand are totally faulted. And so this is the byproduct. And you can just read, Ian Miles Chong's statement there. The Russian state media reports that the SVR has gathered intelligence to suggest that the UK and France are now preparing to arm Ukraine with nuclear weapons. And I've read a couple other more extensive reports on this, and the plan was to give them the components and let them put it together to say, wow, Ukraine figured it out how to do it. But it's, we're not calling it out flippantly. We're calling it out for how serious this is. It's another step, toward a nuclear holocaust. And the worst part about it is, look at those three right there. Merz isn't in the picture. And then, these other globalists, they can't make a decision to save their life. And so knowing that decision making and problem solving is in their hands in Europe, you don't have to use your imagination to understand how easily these fools could make a rash decision, even being duped by their own propaganda, and then do something. And by bad decisions, I mean every decision, every choice they make, even to say out loud the decision, backfires on them. And they seem to think that, Russia's the same Russia they assumed Russia was in 2021 and 22. And that was the bear. It's a paper tiger. You can push them as far as you want. They're not going to do anything. And they're just not paying attention if they still think that, because we've got some follow on to show the responses to that report.
So here's the next one.
Yeah. So this is the Russian representative to the UN, and he says Russia has all the capabilities to respond to London and Paris. They decide to transfer nuclear weapons to Ukraine. The Russia Federation calls on Europe to reconsider the course of escalating confrontation and stop following the logic of war until the last Ukrainian, which is what they're doing. Europe is not inclined to support the current trilateral talks aimed at finding a long-term settlement on the Ukrainian crisis. And then even Putin weighed in, which shows you, again, not only the seriousness, but how times have changed. Putin's getting fed up. He rarely comments on a lot of this stuff, but he just said this in his speech. This is the situation I just mentioned. It's not possible to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. What does he mean by that? It means stop thinking you're going to cause the Russian people to rise up and throw out Vladimir Putin. Stop thinking that the Russian government's going to break apart because of the financial strain. And stop thinking they're going to get rolled up on the battlefield because their strategic acumen doesn't need any superlatives. You can watch it in action and see where they've gone already. But as he says, but they really want it. They can't live without it, or they think they can't. They absolutely need to defeat Russia. They're looking for any way, any method, anything at all. They'll push themselves to the extreme and then they'll regret it. So, wow, you talk about desperate men make desperate moves, and crazy people do crazy things. And he's already internalized that, which, Putin fully understands the Europeans. That's why Russia's washed their hands of, any involvement from Europe. They get it. They don't need any more examples of the extremism coming out of the EU leaders.
So I took this next one from TASS directly. It's on our Eastern European side, but I just wanted to read one paragraph. That the statements, this is from the Russian state news agency TASS, that specified that based on the intelligence information, it's France and Britain that are looking to get this nuclear capability to Ukraine. It's highlighted the covert provision of European-made components, equipment, and technologies. One option reportedly under consideration is the French TN-75 compact warhead, originally designed for a submarine-launched ballistic missile. Germany allegedly refused to participate in this. Anyway, you can find this on sarism.com, our Eastern European site. But
so that's good, and it shows MERS had a moment of clarity there. But Starmer and Macron keep moving forward, and I think we have one more from yes, right here. We have Medvedev's, and basically what Medvedev said was, "Hey, don't even think for a moment we're not going to respond." And that's not just a nuclear response, it's the Oreshnik response. And what Medvedev is saying is, we'll flatten the factories in Munich, or not Munich now, but wherever these factories are in Britain or France, we'll flatten those factories with Oreshnik hypersonic missiles. We don't have to go nuclear to respond. But, obviously their intel, the other thing they should tell France and Britain is, understand, once again, correct your bad assumptions about Russia. They have great intel, especially in Ukraine, where, Ukraine was fully compromised even to start the war. And by now, you can bet it's on steroid because of the disenfranchisement that Zelensky has created amongst Ukrainians, just like Hitler did with the Germans. You had plenty of guys ripe for the picking by foreign intelligence to turn to do the right thing for their country, and there's plenty of those now. So, people should take note of that. And so, before we go to the casualties, I just say, this again to President Trump. It's not just you have to stop this.
Divorce is tough, but your finances don't have to be. I'm David Cross, and I'm a certified divorce financial analyst practitioner. My job is to help you get a fair financial settlement in your divorce and to guide you to smarter money decisions. Find out how we can help you. U.S. Asset Management. It's your money.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
You have to take action, and it's very simple. Already well on the path to it with what's going on with these trilateral talks and the bilateral talks with Russia about economic ties. But we have to completely normalize relations with Russia, say it out loud, sign a peace treaty, integrate diplomatically, militarily, commercially, especially. So these crazed globalists cannot start a nuclear war, cannot kill their own people who have no say in this. We relate. We had Biden for 4 years. Europe is held captive by these EU leaders, and it's not their fault, but they certainly could suffer from the foolish senselessness of their leaders.
Well, you saw the UN, the U.S. Abstained, and so did China, by the way, on a vote to try to continue the Ukraine war. So I found that a little bit encouraging. But back to you.
And then just the bottom of that slide is important. So these are updated casualty figures, and as horrific as ever, you and I never dismiss these because this is what it's all about. This is, I'd love to see Starmer, Macron, any of these globalists stand up in front of the accurate casualty figures, and say, we want to keep the war going. And they really don't care. That's historically, I think, what is going to be most damning about their actions is this lack of empathy, lack of conscientiousness, because look at those figures.
Yeah.
Those aren't even 1,000. Those are over 1,000 a day. And those are human beings being killed day after day, week after week, month after month. And
you played a video a while back of a truck or a vehicle moving up, and then like 5 guys getting out of it, and bam, they were hit right when they got out of the vehicle. So these, as you said, likely were fresh troops, not trained, not experienced. They drive up, they don't realize, and the drones just take them out immediately. So that must be happening, rinse, repeat over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and Ukraine, we can cover it next episode because we won't have time today. But Ukraine has, since these talks started, launched a number of completely senseless counterattacks. Those counterattacks have ended up the same way their counterattacks have for the last 2 years: catastrophic failure, tens and tens of vehicles filled with tens and hundreds of men who, like you just said, never even saw what hit them, never knew what the battlefield looked like. And the counterattacks were all done for political reasons. When you look, and we'll show on the map where they're at, they don't make any sense except for potentially providing Zelensky and the propaganda network with some ammunition to say, look, all you people who don't think the war can be won, we just took 30 kilometers, or 40 kilometers. But they didn't even do that. They tried to retake Kupiansk. That failed. They tried to retake Uye-Puye. That failed. And, it's horrific. But mostly it's a humanitarian crisis that's hard to describe.
Here's one more slide before we go to your videos.
Yeah. So, the Russians are saying it now, and the numbers back it up. These aren't propaganda. 1.5 million. And I think we've been edging up toward that number. We've been between 1, but with those 9,000 a week and 8,500 a week casualties for sure. They're up to 1.5 million, and there's I think if you have the next one, there's a German article that thinks it's 2 million because there's 500,000 missing, and that's a crisis too. Those are being found in basements, frozen to death. The leave no man behind is not, is not relevant in this war for the Ukrainian side because
Well,
first off, out of necessity.
I just took
Go
the
ahead.
video. I just have the video. Sorry, I didn't get the verbiage. But
Yeah, okay, that's all right. It was same thing, except
Yeah.
they think it's 2 million. I just wanted to show it because it's a European mainstream media, and the fact they're saying that now just shows you. And you can remember when we were talking about President Trump's initial bad advice he was getting from his advisors, senile advisors. President Trump, one of his first speeches said, "We got to stop this war. Russia's lost up to 1 million men, and Ukraine, somewhere around 150,000."
Yeah.
But that's been the lie, and the lie also exposes their lack of empathy and compassion. Even if Russia had lost 1.5 million, you and I would still be sitting here going, "You've got to end this war."
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
way too many, but they don't care. It's like 1.5
Well, that's-
million for Russia is okay, but not for Ukraine.
I still think that's the objective, but I'll just read this. Deutsche Welle reports that Ukrainian armed forces losses could reach up to 2 million. The report says 1.5 million identified deaths, 500,000 unidentified bodies, marking one of the most tragic indicators of the conflict. So,
Yeah.
and I have a video to go with that. You want me to play that?
Sure.
These old train cars now carry the dead, around 3,000 Ukrainian soldiers who've been swapped with Russia for the remains of their dead.
Тут їх привозять на вантажних автомобілях, тут же їх вже розпаковують вже в мішки, надають реєстраційний номер і з грузовиків їх або в вагони, або відразу в палатки.
They arrive without names, many without faces, and some just a jumble of parts. But each body represents a person waiting to be identified. There are more than 500,000 unidentified bodies in Ukraine. It can take years to complete identification work given limited resources. 500,000 unidentified soldiers and 1.5 million of those Ukrainian armed forces soldiers who have been identified represent Ukraine's actual casualties.
Робота значно складна, при тому всіх складна. І у санітарів, які ці діла доставляють, і у експертів, які ці діла описують, і у лікаря, який займається ідентифікацією по ДНК.
They've been dead for months, some even for years, but forensic experts can still find clues.
По зубах, якщо є зуби, можливо визначити єловік. В даному випадку тут зуби всі свої, цілі. Я вважаю, що це людина, молода людина, молодий чоловік, віком десь 20, 25, 30, 35 років.
Good, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So horrific, and if they really wanted to identify them, they'd call on the EU and the US to send, people who work coroners, people with coronary experience or coroner experience, and they'd ID them, but they don't want to pay the families. I
Yeah.
think it's similar to the US SGLI. I think it's 200 to 250,000.
yeah.
And so it's just horrific. And, when you see those men laying there, and the guy said months and years, because they were just left. And they're finding them in basements all over the place, frozen to death. It's just horrific. And how, what led up to that individual dying, like you said, the video of the pickup truck, everyone should have that front and center, because that's why this thing, the insanity of this thing, and the fact that it's a 100% fake war, propaganda war started. Nobody in Ukraine understood how it was started. It wasn't started for them, that's for sure. It was started to overthrow their government, and it was started to get their country to be this little private state that the globalists could use for censorship, industrial complex, money laundering, and anything else they wanted to do.
It is, and man, it just gets you all those kids. I mean, that's even Trump is the only one that cares about it.
I know.
Nobody else is talking about it.
I know,
Maybe
and he
Putin.
needs to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
He's done a great job with that.
Mm-hmm.
And every discussion of Ukraine should start with that, and should start with some pictures, because it's reality. We can't turn our heads. You can't ignore the death of innocent young men on both sides for no reason.
All right, so we've got a video of Hillary Clinton. I'll play that now.
Yeah.
If you want a just, lasting settlement in Ukraine, you have to better equip Ukraine. You have to give them long-range missiles. You have to give them really adequate functioning air defense systems. That's the only thing that Putin will understand.
So on how many levels we can discuss that? First, she gets no classified briefing. So just imagine her sitting there talking about weapon systems for a specific war, and the way she, talks as if she's a subject matter expert, but she's for sure a total warmonger. She couldn't care less. We could have shown that whole segment to her and she'd say the same thing, same tone. And then just the third thing is, to the rest of the world, we've got to be scratching their heads going, isn't she supposed to be in jail? And I would just end it with that. But you're seeing, this is the insanity of this propaganda network. It never stops. If you're part of the globalist Democratic Party, you preach the party line, no matter what reality tells you how opposite it is from what you're saying.
So true. And unfortunately, there's too many low information people out there, normies, who don't have the time or the inclination to dig into this stuff. But here's the next video with Boris Johnson, who has blood on his hands for keeping the war going.
If we're going to have a plan for boots on the ground, I may be going in advance of a lot of thinking in the UK at the moment. But if we're going to have a plan for boots on the ground after the war, after Putin has condescended to have a ceasefire, then why not do it now? Just to make this point that it is up to the Ukrainians. I mean, these people wouldn't be there in a war-fighting capacity, right?
To be clear, you're saying that right now that UK military forces and from other European countries should go to Ukraine, to safe parts of Ukraine, to make a statement, to flip that switch, as you said, in Vladimir Putin's head, showing intent.
Yes, I think we're willing to do it in the context of a ceasefire, which of course puts all the initiative, all the power in Putin's hands.
Well, Putin doesn't want anything to do with European troops on the ground in Ukraine. Plus, they don't have any troops to send. So.
Right. And why would he? We wouldn't allow Chinese troops on the Mexican border. Mm-hmm. So it's a ridiculous concept. But once again, he doesn't get any classified briefing. He knows nothing about military affairs. He's got zero experience. Never, you can see by his deportment. He's never done anything hard in his life. He's the one who sabotaged the last best chance to end this war before it started in 2022, the Minsk Accord. He went personally to Zelensky. Zelensky had already initialed the accords, told him, do not sign it. We got you. We're going to provide you all the weapons and equipment you need. We got you. Fight on. So with him, you're seeing, multiple driving factors. You're seeing human nature. He was, not just wrong, he was dead wrong times 1.5 million. We're not supporting Ukraine. There's no way anyone could support Ukraine. They have no defense industrial base and they've already run out of men. But here he is, saying we need to put him in now. And like you said, they don't have them. They don't have the troops. Number two, I'm not going to speak for British troops, but I would guess if you took a secret poll, they'd be about 99% against deploying to Ukraine for no reason, being left there. And And what I said in the beginning, Russia's not messing around anymore. They know they have the moral high ground here. And if you put 10,000 troops on the ground there, you're going to get 10,000, pounds worth of Oreshnik, and they're going to blow them out of the.
Well, that's about 10 days. That's about 10 days worth of fighting. The way it's going right now.
Yeah.
And they don't have any, I think the whole British military is like 70, 80,000, something like that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But again, just seeing this, Hillary, and there's more. We just pick those two. You see the propaganda war. They never stop because they can't stop, or they'll be proven wrong, and they'll lose any chance for their system to ever stay in power, because that's I'm convinced what the EU's so desperate about. If the censorship industrial complex goes down, Macron can win with 15% approval and Starmer with 16, but only with the censorship industrial complex, the cheating, the enterprise that exists inside Ukraine. And so they're desperate to keep this thing going, and just completely deluded by their own lies.
So we've got one more video of the Maidan shootings.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. I mean, I was there after that time.
No, go ahead and show it, and I'll talk over it a little bit. It's a great video that just came out, and it's good to play it now, because this is how it all began, folks. And you've heard us talk about Maidan was a fake protest. The U.S. under the Obama administration used $5 billion in USAID slush fund money to pay all these people. And the great thing about this video, you're about to see the NGOs at work on the ground.
февраля 2014 года неизвестные снайперы открыли огонь на поражение на Киевском Майдане. Выстрелы велись как по спецназу МВД «Беркут», так и по протестующим. Около 6 утра спецназ был атакован из здания консерватории, контролируемой оппозицией. В результате погибли 4 правоохранителей, десятки были ранены. Большинство протестующих были убиты на улице Институтской с 9 утра до полудня. Снайперский огонь велся из зданий гостиницы «Украина» и Октябрьского дворца. Все здания контролировались оппозицией, а среди снайперов были грузинские наемники. Боевое оружие было доставлено комендантом Майдана Андреем Порубием и его людьми. Распоряжение стрелять по митингующим и правоохранителям поступило лично от оппозиционного депутата Верховной Рады Пашинского. В результате снайперской стрельбы погибли 54 человека, сотни получили ранения.
The protesters are paid, they're armed, they're given batons, they're given helmets. Everyone's got a different one, but the orange is, stands out. And the orange was the far right guys too. So they could see each other. GP medium tents, soup kitchens, totally paid for, total lie. It was not an organic protest. It was a color revolution protest. That was coordinated by the EU and the US to overthrow the Yanukovych government. And, every time I hear the Hillarys, the Johnsons, all these, and Kalakakis, from the EU talk, I find myself wishing there was a mechanism. The UN is not that mechanism. They need to be done away with and something new started. But what should happen right now on the world stage, it's almost like a debate. We need to have publicized for the world the facts of the Ukraine war. And once you know the facts, you realize the position that they've taken the whole time, their name calling, their accusations are 100% false, and that Russia did not start the war. The Obama and Biden administrations, their unelected officials, along with the EU, are the ones who started this war, turned it into what it is today. They still had 7 years to save things, but they just antagonized the whole time. And, here we are today at 1.5 to 2 million dead.
On one side.
On just one side, right.
Yeah. Well, Pete, that's a lot. Anything else you want to get out?
Nope, that's good.
So we'll be back
Good
next
episode.
week. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we're trying to get the right information out. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot happening. Do you know the dates of this trilateral commission? Is it happening again soon? Or-
Yeah, it's not for a week or so, though.
Okay.
I think they're meeting next week.
All right. We'll see you next time on Ukraine SitRep. Thank you.